Welcome to Cost Saver Conversations. I'm Angela, and I ask the practical questions so you can quickly understand what matters. Today, I'm joined by Assad.
Hi, Angela. We are unpacking Airbnb versus Longlet in the UK, avoid these 5 profitability pitfalls in 2026 today, and tying it back to the wider cost-saver ecosystem, including tools like Airbnb versus Longlet rental profitability tool so you can turn insights into action quickly.
Just a heads up before we dive in, we are your synthetic hosts. We're great with numbers, but as AI, we can sometimes be confidently wrong. Think of us as the digital versions of your most knowledgeable, slightly caffeinated friends.
Exactly. Treat this chat as a smart estimate only, not as professional financial guidance. Always check important details with official sources or a qualified expert before making any big decisions.
Welcome back to the Cost Saver Podcast. Today, we are getting into something that I know has been on a lot of landlords' minds, the whole Airbnb versus long-let thing. And Assad is back to help us make sense of it all. Assad, how are you?
Good, good. Thanks, Angela. Yeah, honestly, this is a meaty one. I've been looking forward to it.
So, let's just set the scene. Because I think for years, the assumption was, short-term lets just crush it compared to traditional long lets on profit. Is that still true?
So that's the thing, right? That was the rule of thumb for ages, and it's not holding up anymore, not in 2026. New regulations, the loss of some really significant tax perks, operational costs going up, all of that has narrowed the gap dramatically. The easy money is gone.
That's kind of a big statement.
It is, but I think people need to hear it. Like, if you bought a property between 2017 and 2022 with dreams of, 7-night bookings and 5-star reviews, the landscape has genuinely shifted under your feet.
Right. So you've pulled out 5 main pitfalls that landlords keep tripping over. Let's go through them. The first one is regulation.
Yeah, pitfall number one, and it's the biggest single change reshaping the market. For years, anyone with a spare room or a second home could just list on Airbnb with almost no oversight. That era is, well, it's over. The Leveling Up and Regeneration Act 2023 introduced powers that are now being implemented. There's a mandatory national register for short-term lets rolling out across England. Every host needs to be officially logged with the authorities.
Oh, so this isn't just a London thing anymore.
No, no. I mean, London's had its 90-day rule for years. You can't let an entire property short-term for more than 90 nights per calendar year without planning permission, and Airbnb actually enforces that automatically by blocking your calendar. But now, local councils everywhere are getting new planning powers. In a lot of urban areas, changing use from a standard dwelling to a short-term let requires planning permission.
And Scotland's even stricter, right? I've heard bits about that.
Yeah, Scotland, all short-term lets need a license from the local authority, and the fees they vary wildly. Could be a few £100 for a small flat, could be several thousand for larger properties. And here's the kicker. Failure to license is a criminal offense.
Wait, a criminal offense? Wow, okay.
Yeah, and then Wales. Welsh councils can charge up to 300% council tax on second homes and short-term lets that don't meet strict letting thresholds. People in Gwynedd and Pembrokeshire have seen their bills just triple.
Triple? So if you're only making a few grand above costs.
Exactly. An extra 500 license fee or a massive council tax hike can just wipe that profit out entirely. And the thing people forget is, even if your area doesn't have a scheme today, several English councils, Cornwall, parts of the Lake District, Edinburgh-adjacent authorities, they're actively consulting on controls right now. By the time the rules land, it's too late to restructure.
That's actually quite scary. Okay, so pitfall 2. This is the tax one that I think really stings.
Oh, it stings. So the Furnished Holiday Let regime, FHL, for decades, this was the secret sauce. It made short-term letting genuinely lucrative from a tax perspective. From April 2025, it was abolished, and 2026 is the first full tax year where landlords feel the consequences across an entire annual cycle.
So what specifically have people lost? Because I think some landlords still don't fully get what's gone.
Right, so a lot. Full mortgage interest deductibility against rental income, that's now restricted to a 20% basic rate tax credit, same as long lets. Capital allowances on furniture, fixtures, and fittings, gone. Business asset disposal relief, which capped capital gains tax at 10%, on sale, gone. Pension contributions counted against rental profits, gone. The ability to split income flexibly between spouses regardless of ownership share, gone. Does that make sense? It's like they stripped out every advantage in one go.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of things to lose at once.
And the numbers are real. For a higher rate taxpayer with a mortgaged Airbnb property, losing the interest relief alone can mean an extra £3,000 to £6,000 in tax per year. If you are planning to sell, the loss of business asset disposal relief could cost tens of thousands in additional CGT.
So, in practical terms, a property that used to net, what, 8 grand? Where does it end up now?
Could be 3,000 or less. I spoke with the landlord, Sarah, in Devon. She runs a two-bed cottage near Salcombe. Her property grossed £32,000 in 2023, met at about $9,500 after costs and tax under the FHL regime. Running the same numbers for 2026, with interest relief restricted and capital allowances gone, her projected net drops to $4,200.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she's now seriously weighing up a switch to a 12-month let at $1,500 a month, which would net her around $11,000 with a fraction of the work. So the long let actually comes out ahead. That's the world we're in now.
That's wild. And it kind of leads perfectly into the next one, because gross income can be so misleading, right? Pitfall 3 is operational costs?
Spot on. This is where amateur landlords get destroyed. You look at a two-bed flat and bath grossing $35,000 a year on Airbnb, and the same flat long let to a professional couple fetches $18,000. And you think, well, obvious choice, right? But gross is not net.
Go on.
Okay, so cleaning fees, $80 per turnover, roughly 80 turnovers a year. That's $6,400. Linen and laundry, $1,500 to $2,500. Consumables, toiletries, coffee, dishwasher tablets, $1,200. Utilities included in the rate, $2,800 to $3,500. Council tax, which is no longer business rated for most, $1,800 to $2,400. Channel commission, Airbnb, Booking.com, 15% on average, so around $5,250. Property management, if you're hands-off, 20% of gross, that's $7,000. Maintenance and wear and tear, 8% of gross, about $2,800. Specialist STL insurance, $600 to $900. Accounting and admin, another $500.
That's a lot of line items.
It really is. Add it all up, and you're looking at around $29,000 in costs against that $35,000 gross. So you're left with about $6,000 before mortgage interest, before tax, and before you've replaced the sofa your last guest spilled red wine on.
Right, the red wine sofa. Classic. And the long let comparison?
Far less dramatic. On $18,000 gross, you've got maybe $2,000 for agent fees, $300 for gas safety and IECR compliance averaged out, $900 maintenance, $250 insurance, about $700 for void periods, assuming 2 weeks, $250 accountancy. Total costs around $4,400, leaving $13,600 net before mortgage and tax.
So the gap between $6,000 and $13,600 is, the long let actually wins there.
It does in that scenario, yeah. And that surprises people because they're so fixated on the gross number. The $35,000 sounds amazing until you actually do the math.
Okay, Pitfall 4. This is the occupancy one, and I feel like this is where people really kid themselves.
That's a polite way of putting it. Yeah, seasonality is the cruelest reality of short-term letting. New entrants almost always underestimated. So a typical coastal holiday let, you might see 90% to 95% occupancy in July and August, great, but then 60 to 70% in May, June, September, 40 to 50% in April and October, and then, here's the painful bit, 15 to 25% from November through February, excluding the Christmas and New Year blip.
15%? kind of brutal.
It is. Blended across the year, you're often looking at 55% to 65% annual occupancy at best. City center business lets do a bit better in shoulder months, but worse in school holidays. Rural and seasonal locations can dip below 10% in deep winter.
And compare that to a long let where you're what?
96% to 98% occupancy across the year, just accounting for changeover voids. That certainty of monthly rent is genuinely valuable, especially when you've got a mortgage to service. In the quiet months on an Airbnb, you're still paying council tax, utilities, you need to keep the heating on to prevent damp, insurance, mortgage. Many hosts run at a loss from November to March and just hope the summer covers it.
That's a big gamble.
It really is. And the mistake I see all the time is people modeling on a peak season week. If AirDNA shows your area runs at 58% occupancy with an average daily rate of 110, your realistic annual gross is around $23,000, not the $40,000 you'd get by multiplying 110 by 365.
Oh, I hadn't thought about it like that. That's a massive difference. Okay, so final pitfall, number 5.
This one's more strategic. It's choosing the wrong rental model for your property. People pick Airbnb or long let based on what they read in a Sunday supplement rather than what genuinely suits their property and their personal circumstances.
So how do you figure out which one you should be doing?
So, short-term letting still makes more sense if the property's in a genuine tourist or business travel destination, if you own outright or have very low gearing, if it has standout features, sea view, hot tub, incredible central location, and if you live nearby or have reliable local management. And, crucially, if you can absorb seasonal cash flow variation, like you've got other income covering the quiet months.
Right, and the flip side?
Long letting generally wins if it's in a commuter belt or university town, if you have a mortgage and need predictable monthly income, if you don't have time or appetite for the operational hassle, if the property is a standard family home in a residential area, if the local council is hostile to STLs, which more and more are, or if you're a higher rate taxpayer and the interest restriction really hurts.
What about people trying to do both? Like, is there a middle ground?
Yeah, actually, some landlords are doing really well with hybrid models. Corporate lets for 30 to 90 days, which often sit outside most short-term let regulations. Or, and this is clever, a long let for 9 months and then Airbnb during the summer holiday season, where local rules permit. Done properly, it can capture the best of both, but you've got to check those local rules carefully.
That actually makes a lot of sense. So for someone listening to this thinking, okay, I need to actually figure out what's right for me, what's the process? Like, where do you start?
Okay, so the sensible process. First, pull 12 months of actual comparable booking data for properties in your postcode. Use AirDNA or a similar tool. National averages are misleading. A coastal town in Cornwall behaves nothing like a commuter belt in Surrey. Then get 3 letting agent valuations for the long let rent. List every fixed cost. List every variable cost at realistic occupancy, not peak. Apply current tax rules at your marginal rate, remembering the 20% credit cap on mortgage interest.
And then stress test it, right?
Yes, exactly. What if occupancy is 20% lower? What if costs are 15% higher? And compare net annual yield, not gross revenue. The whole thing takes maybe 30 to 45 minutes if you've got your accounts and a recent rent valuation to hand. Have I explained that clearly? It's really just about being honest with the numbers.
No, that's really clear. A few quick-fire questions that I know listeners will be wondering about. Switching from Airbnb to a long let, do you lose a lot of flexibility?
Some, but probably less than you think. A standard 12-month AST can often be ended at the break clause, and you can revert to short-term letting between tenancies if your area still permits it. The flexibility cost is real, but rarely catastrophic.
And is there any chance the FHL rules come back?
Honestly, unlikely. It was a cross-party measure driven by housing pressure in tourist areas. I'd say plan for the world as it is, not the world you'd like.
Fair enough. And do people need an accountant for all this?
If you own more than one property or your annual rental income is above £20,000, almost certainly yes. A good property accountant typically saves more than they charge. It's one of those things where the upfront cost puts people off, but it pays for itself.
Okay, so let me try to pull this all together. The big takeaway is that the Airbnb versus long let question isn't about which model wins overall anymore. It's about which model wins for your specific property, your specific area, your specific tax rate.
That's it. That's exactly it. The regulatory environment is tightening, the tax advantages of short-term letting have largely evaporated, and operational costs keep going up. For some properties, particularly outright-owned holiday cottages in established tourist destinations, Airbnb still makes excellent sense. But for most leveraged buy-to-lets in residential areas, the boring stability of a long-let is now genuinely competitive and far less hassle.
So, the 5 pitfalls one more time: underestimating the new regulatory burden, missing the death of the FHL tax regime, forgetting how much operational cost eats your margin, assuming year round occupancy, and choosing the wrong model for your property.
Nailed it. And the one thing I'd leave people with, run the maths properly. Be honest about occupancy. Factor in every regulatory and tax cost. The answer might genuinely surprise you.
Brilliant. Assad, thank you so much. That was incredibly useful.
My pleasure, Angela. Thanks for having me.
Quick side note, this guide connects with other cost saver blogs, especially Company Car versus Cash Allowance UK Tax 2026 guide, Free Ways to Cut Energy Bills This Winter, and Complete Guide to Home Insulation ROI.
Exactly. And reading those together helps you connect the dots across your household budget, not just this one topic in isolation.
And if you want to apply this immediately, jump into tools like Airbnb versus Long Let Rental Profitability tool right after this episode.
Primary sources used here include HMRC, abolition of the furnished holiday lettings tax regime, and Money Saving Expert, so you can verify the data yourself and stay evidence-led.
That wraps this cost saver conversation with Angela and Assad. If this helped, share it with someone who could put these ideas to work this week.
Your next step is simple. Try Airbnb versus Long Let Rental Profitability tool, then read Company Car versus Cash Allowance UK Tax 2026 guide, and use them together to take action today.